Alrighty. So I did a video talking about the predatory monetization of Pokemon Unite. Now I think I need to maybe be a little specific and talk about the pros and cons of the game. The things that I love and the things that I absolutely cannot stand. And it's a bit of a long list, but, you know, it'll be fine. If you're here for the list, we'll talk about these things. And you can enjoy my terrible Gardevoir gameplay in the background. Let's go ahead and be very clear here, though. I am not going to be talking about problematic Pokemon. So problematic Pokemon, things like Gengar on release, things like Snorlax right now, these things are subject to change. With patches, with meta shifts, player knowledge will change, ways that we can adapt to these things. No Pokemon-centered criticism will hold any water historically, just like when you're starting League of Legends and you have 1,000 things you want to say about Master Yi before you understand that hitting the stun button is a way to solve literally every problem with that character. So we're not going to focus on Pokemon-specific problems. We're going to talk first about the things I love, then get into the things I dislike. But I wanted to give that disclaimer real quick so that everybody knew going in, we're not just going to be going, well, if Snorlax wasn't in the game, then I wouldn't be body slammed to death right in my base. So let's talk about the things I love. First of all, I love the speed of this game. This is a game, not only does it feel good to just drop in and drop out of matches, not leaving matches, but getting into a game and then leaving one. It's not leaving a game. Damn, why do I keep saying that? Anyway, getting into a game is fast. Gameplay itself is nice and snappy. I like how these things feel. I also enjoy how all Pokemon, regardless of what type, have to weave auto attacks into their rotation. For those who don't know, pretty much every Pokemon has a 3-hit passive of some kind. If you're Gardevoir, you get an attack enhancement on your 3rd hit. If you're Venusaur, your 3rd hit allows you to wrap people up in vines using Vine Whip so that you can line up things like Solar Beam and use any of his other ranged attacks. I like 3-hit passives. All Pokemon having 3-hit passives incentivizes even more mage-like Pokemon like Gardevoir to use those auto attacks. And I think that's good. It means that there's not a part of your kit that goes unused. I like the fact that when you are choosing skills, you get to choose them as you level up. In other multiplayer online battle arena type games, you have a set amount of skills that your character will always get, and they will never change. Whereas in a game like this, I can choose to be a melee-oriented Charizard or a more ranged-oriented Charizard depending on what skills I choose. That is a unique thing to this game, and I think it's a good way of blending the skill progression in the Pokemon video games with what this game is trying to accomplish as a MOBA. Now, I also enjoy the fact that you can cut player speed depending on where you are on the map. Now, what do I mean? Now, if you notice, as I'm running down this map with Gardevoir, well, with Ralts right now, these sections are blue. This means that these are the areas of the map that are controlled by our team, and if anybody tries to get into that area that is not part of our team, they will be slowed down. I like that a lot. In games like League, there is an issue where certain hypermobile characters have the ability to just cheese you in between your towers and then avoid being hurt later on down the road. Now, towers in this game, or goalposts in this game, do not do damage to enemy Pokemon, but they do heal you. So having the ability for people to be slowed down in these areas, I like that as an idea. I would like something like that to be implemented in League at some point. I would like punishment for hypermobile characters who don't get a lot of punishment otherwise. I also like character customization in this game. We will go ahead and show a thing real quick for those who are watching. Character customization is very, very nice in this game in particular, and it's not something that we get in a lot of Pokemon games right now to this degree. So I'll go ahead and show. Before we continue with the video, I want to go ahead and throw out that fun reminder that we are on YouTube, so if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It would be an immense help for the channel, and those numbers really do mean a lot. And if you want to catch any of what goes on this channel live, then the best thing you can do is head over to Twitch and hit that follow button over there so you can know when I go live there. Alrighty, I'll stop taking up your time here. Back to the video. The customization that you get, I guess Sword and Shield had a lot of good ones in it in comparison. As soon as the loading screen actually allows me. Thank you very much for telling me about the update. I really don't care about the update. I should have actually had this screen prepared for everybody right now. And then the loading screen is happening as well. I guess one of the cons we get to talk about right now while we're doing this is there's a lot of loading in this game, and I don't like that. There's even loading when you're picking a Pokemon for going into a fight. Each Pokemon's model has to load, and that takes up a lot of time, and I don't like that. But if we go here to Closet, like, character customization-wise, I can drop my character into a Snorlax suit. I can drop my character into a suit set like this. This is the default one that I got when I started. You have the ability to buy all kinds of stuff from the online shop with in-game currency to put on your character. And it makes your character yours. It makes your Pokemon trainer unique. And that's something that we don't get in a lot of Pokemon games to this kind of degree. Now, granted, because this is a MOBA, I can understand why this is where we have one of the largest degrees of this, but this is something that I'd like to carry over into later Pokemon games. I know that there are some people that really like characters having an identity within a story that is linked to their design, but in an RPG like this, or in RPGs like the other Pokemon games, I like being able to customize my character to the nth degree. If I want to have an Eldegoss hoodie with fisherman boots and a backpack on, well, I guess not and a backpack on, then I can do that, with the exception of certain items that don't go with each other somehow. I can even put on a watch if I want, but for some reason, the watch also turns off the hoodie. So I guess we have to put this in the dislike category, despite it being this early on. You do not have the ability to take any items that would overlap on one another. They automatically screw with you when trying. But the amount of customization we have at time of making the video is nice, and I can't wait till we get more. And maybe eventually they'll solve that clipping problem. At least I can hope so. I also like the fact that we have trainer cards. Trainer cards are one of those things that Sword and Shield implemented in, and because the feel of Sword and Shield, I expected them to be something that would stay in Sword and Shield, because the entire idea of the trainer card in Sword and Shield is you're making a trading card of your character, because it's a sports festival. So you have a sports card, and that was always a really cool thing to me. In this game specifically, you have the ability, I can actually do it here in, is it item box? It's not item box. It's here. You can go to your profile, and you can actually create a unique trainer card. You can change your character's expression. You can change what pose they're going to have. Now, the poses are not as plentiful as they were in Pokemon Sword and Shield, to my recollection, but they're still nice, and we can put stickers and other stuff on here to make this card look unique. And because the actual fashion that you have on your character translates into the card, if I were to update my fashion right now, it will go ahead and have my current character's outfit on it. Whatever customization options are there for your character will translate into customization options for the card. And again, because I think that the trainers themselves, being able to see yourself as a Pokemon trainer, is just as important as the individual unique Pokemon in the game, that becomes an aspect that I really, really enjoy. That's something that I hope that we will get more things of. I hope we get more poses. I hope we get more just little things to make that aspect of the game feel better. With that said, we can move on to the next part. I like the quick communication tools in this game. I don't actually use them that much in the footage that I have here, so we're not going to be able to see them there. But because we don't have access to a pinging system, the same way you do in League, where you can select an area to ping, because we don't have access to typing the way we would in something like League, quick communication is good. I like that we have access to it. Also, important thing, unique to this game on the Switch, the game servers feel stable. Now, I know that might not seem very important to a lot of people, but if you've played any online games on the Switch, you know that just like with the Wii, just like with the Wii U, it's always hit or miss over whether or not your connection is going to be stable enough to facilitate you having a good game. This is me not having a good game. This is me using an auto attack instead of a Moonblast when a Zorora is trying to push my shit in. Another thing, speaking of the game servers themselves, we actually have the ability to add people as a friend. Now, you might not think that this is important. You might not think that this is even that unique. But with certain other games coming out, like, say, Magic the Gathering Online Arena, where the friends list is barely functional at all, and adding people that you enjoyed playing with or against post-game is not facilitated very well, the fact that this is here at all on a Nintendo game when Nintendo has been so adverse to allowing friends to communicate out of random matches for years is a plus to me. As somebody who played Metroid Prime Hunters during the age where we had to fire our friend codes into walls in a desperate attempt to communicate to people that we wanted to be friends with them, seeing this is good. I don't know if any of you remember or played Prime Hunters Online, but it was universally accepted in that game that if you stopped and started firing your gun at the ground, that was a signal that you wanted to be friends with somebody. And then you both would stop, grab a notepad, and you would fire your friend codes into a wall with your blaster, and then try to decipher the energy holes in the wall to add them with their 16-digit friend codes. It was a nightmare, but people want to be able to play with their opponents again. They don't want to just play with somebody they ostensibly know is a human and then just realize later that there's no difference between playing with them or playing with bots because they can never communicate with them. Seeing it in this game, it makes me happy. Not for the right reasons, but it makes me happy. I also enjoy the use of held items in this game. In games like League of Legends, in games like Paladins, other MOBAs, you have the ability to buy items in a shop and then use those items throughout your games. Pokemon Unite wants to be a console and mobile game first, where things are as quick as possible. So having the items brought in with you, I think, is a nice compromise. And it makes thematic use of a concept we already understand from other Pokemon games. Building items on a Pokemon does not make sense thematically with what Pokemon is. Bringing held items into a match, that makes sense thematically with what we understand Pokemon to be. So I have to give another point to that marriage thematically between what a MOBA is and what Pokemon Unite is as a game in the Pokemon franchise. Where my final point comes in, just in general, Pokemon evolution, leveling up, the use of specific Pokemon, experience buffs, all things that a Pokemon player already understands transfer into this game. In the regular video games, Audino is worth more experience than other Pokemon, and is frequently used as an experience farm for players who are trying to grind. Audinos, in this game, also give extra experience. It's a nice parallel. Leveling up, Pokemon evolution, all these things work within the concept of the context of the game, and they work very well. And if you're a Pokemon fan already, the idea that you start out as a Bulbasaur and become a Venusaur at the end of the match makes sense. It doesn't need communication to you. It automatically makes sense to you. And that is what this game is trying to do. As a MOBA trying to cater to Pokemon fans, it wants all of its resources to be recognizable first and foremost to Pokemon fans, and it does that, and it does that well. So now, I guess it's time to get to the things I dislike. This is going to be a lot less fun for those of you who are not great with hearing one of your favorite games get ripped apart. And I know there's a lot of people who love Pokemon Unite who are not going to like to hear some of the things I have to say. But first and foremost, I'm going to get the first thing I dislike. You might think it's going to be the shops, but no, that's further down the list. The first thing I'm going to talk about is timed matches. I do not like this aspect of the game at all. I do not like the matches being on a timer. I feel that in a game, if you are able to successfully turtle until the enemy team and you are on an even playing field leveling-wise, and then you can push an advantage that way, you should be allowed to. That should be an option. That should be a strategy that you are able to utilize in your game. I think de-incentivizing players from engaging in these kinds of defensive strategies, I don't like it. I don't like that aspect of what I know MOBAs to be taken out. Towers are already not aggressive in this game. It's already easy enough to get into the enemy base. If you wanted matches to last a short amount of time, That's already facilitated by the small size of the map. That's already facilitated by the functionality of the towers as they are right now. The game already does all of that for you. So I really don't think that we should be punished for having to engage in a turtle strategy by a timer artificially cutting off how late we are into a game. Next thing, some victories in this game feel entirely artificial. For instance, if I've scored no points in the entire game, I've scored nothing. My team might have scored nothing. Generally, the enemy team might have about a 300-point lead, 400-point lead even. 400-point lead means they've probably broken all of our structures. We've broken none of their structures. But if our team, with a 400-point deficit, in the last minute of the game secure a Zapdos kill, we gain the ability to win the game outright, despite the fact that the enemy team has been playing better than us the whole time. Zapdos victories, as essential as they are for certain strategies, feel artificial. They feel way more artificial than something like, say, a Baron buff does in League. And I think they wouldn't exist if we didn't have this timer system. With the timer system in the game, Zapdos being there so you can clutch a victory makes sense. But I already don't want that timer system in this game. Now, why do some of these victories feel artificial, though? Because it's not just because of Zapdos. Zapdos is one reason. The other reason is point doubling. How many of you are familiar with Jackbox games? In Jackbox games, round 1 is worth 1 point, but round 2 things might be worth twice as many points, and stuff in round 3 might be worth 3 to 5 times as many points. This means that securing an early lead means nothing. In fact, actually, everything you do in the early game doesn't matter as far as points are concerned. Now, in Pokemon Unite, these early game things do matter because they facilitate what level you will be when it comes time for that clutch Zapdos fight at the end of every game. But the actual points on board, they matter a whole lot less than they should. And it's because of this Jackbox-like strategy that they decided to employ. I don't like point doubling. They cater to less competitive games overall, where players end up being bottlenecked into relying on Zapdos, either Zapdos defense or Zapdos attacking, for easy point scoring. It makes early point leads feel superficial and not very worthwhile. If I'm on a team that is winning handedly throughout the entire game, it should not be that the enemy team gets to just hold on to all of their ults and randomly wipes my team at a Zapdos, and suddenly we have lost. They should have to work for that victory. Dropping a bunch of AoE ults at the last second when there's not really a good way to handle most ultimate attacks, with a couple of exceptions, which I'll get into later, those victories don't feel earned. Those victories feel random. And I get that that's maybe a little bit of what they're going for. It's kind of that Mario Kart randomness that wants to be in there. But I really don't think Mario Kart randomness should be there in your MOBA. The random elements of your MOBA are already taken into account when you consider that different players on different teams are going to be inputting all of their abilities manually. This leads to matches already having an aspect of randomization in them. You don't know the strategies are going to be employed. You don't know the Pokemon they're going to be brought into the match. You don't know if they're going to prioritize Dreadnought or Rotom in a match. That randomness that you want in your game, it's already there. It already exists. It doesn't need to come at the cost of some of the more competitive edge your game can have. Having the game have aspects in there for casual players is fine. It's great. But having it in there in spite of more competitive things, it feels like a waste when they simply don't need to be there. You can have casual games of, say, League without these same issues. And as I said in my last video, these points of comparison are valid. They are both MOBAs being operated by the same company. Next thing, I am really not a fan of the goal scoring system in this game. For those who don't know, you get a certain amount of points when you beat wild Pokemon, and then you take those points. You can actually see some of them dropped on the ground right there. you take those points and you have to bring them manually to a goal. Now, when you bring those points to the goal, depending on how many points you have on you, you'll either be able to score them, or you'll have to charge up your score, unless you have a Rotom or a Zapdos, in which all scoring is nigh instantaneous. Now, there are items you can use as held items that give you a shield so that you can score easier, but despite the ability to use these shields to score easier, it feels off. So what do I mean by that? Well, towers that serve a similar function to the goalposts in this game in League, if I hit a tower, the damage, unless it's a base tower, stays. The damage is there. I've done my work. I need to chip that damage out to win. But this all-or-nothing approach to points that is in this game, it makes certain matches feel tedious. If my opponent drops an Eldegoss and a Snorlax down on the bot lane, those characters are likely not going to be dying anytime soon, so my ability to score any points is gone. And their ability to score on us is still fine because Pokemon are not quite balanced enough yet to where tanks aren't doing damage. I don't think we'll ever get to that point, though, because even other MOBAs suffer with this problem. And again, we're avoiding Pokemon-specific problems during this video. We're not going to be doing hashtag Nerf Snorlax today, regardless of my personal feelings. But now we got to talk about the in-game shop. I've already gone onto the predatory nature of the shop. I'm not a huge fan of it in the way it operates right now, but I'm going to be honest, the shop itself being predatory is something I still have to talk about in this video. You have very limited weekly rewards, and it all feels catered to bottlenecking players into emptying their wallets. Instead, I think that if you want to facilitate earning real-life money in your game, which you should, your developers need to get paid, you need to do so by leveraging your skins and your superficial bonus items. They should not be leveraging stats and characters for real-life money. Now, there's a caveat here. I'm okay with characters being purchasable with real-life money in the event that they remove the weekly cap of AOS coins. Until they remove the weekly cap of AOS coins, though, characters being purchasable with in-game, like real-life money, feels slimy. Again, in games like League, we have the ability to purchase characters with in-game and also real currency. But in a game like League, we have the ability to grind whatever amount of points we want to get to our character. The more we play, the more rewards we get. And I think that that is fair. There are things that are capped off for League players, but those are bonus things. Hextech chests are the things that are capped off for League players. For Pokemon players, the base currency required to play the characters you need to facilitate doing anything in the game, those are the things that are capped behind these weekly limits. That makes the store feel slimy to me. But let's move back to the game itself, outside of the store. Let's talk about the jungle in this game, or the central area. Now, I pointed out that the scoring system causes me issues because Pokemon with more points take longer to score, which means that there are many situations where they might not ever be able to even do anything with those points. If you are a jungler, you likely will have more points. If you're somebody who's in the central area a lot, you will have more points than the rest of the people on your team 90% of the time, because you are farming Pokemon at a quicker rate than the other players on your team. Meaning, unless you flat out kill everybody in that lane, you're not doing anything with those points. You're not going to be able to score those points that often. That feels like a mechanical misstep to me. Players should also be de-incentivized from taking jungle camps. The problems for jungle don't stop at the scoring system. Jungle camps have a problem as well. You see, I'm going to keep making these comparisons, in something like League, jungle camps, central area camps, they give less experience and deal massive damage to players in lanes who try to steal your jungle, because these are the things you need to survive. Without you farming the jungle, you don't get to level up, and you don't get to save anybody on your team. You become less useful. Right now, there is no way, there is no method of de-incentivizing going into the jungle and taking items from, or taking Pokemon from the jungle. That's just not a thing you can do right now. So what happens? Early game, a lot of people end up just taking a jungle camp and making it to where your jungler ganks at level 4 instead of level 5. Now, for most Pokemon, they level up at level 5, or they evolve at level 5, which means that they are fighting at a much higher power level once they evolve. But when you take that single jungle camp from the jungle, you fuck over that jungler completely. But there is no information in this game that tells you not to do that. There's nothing that says that you shouldn't. It's not in the tutorial that I was able to see or that I remember, and there's nothing in the game's communication that facilitates that either. Remember, we don't have the ability to type to people, so we can't just say, don't take things from my central area or I won't be able to gank effectively. We don't have those abilities. Unless they do something mechanically to de-incentivize taking things from the central area, being a jungler in a lot of cases is just going to suck. But this leads me to my final thing. The final issue that I have, because outside of the jungle, and there are two things that have to do with crowd control. The first thing is the crowd control windows in this game. I don't know if there are diminishing returns to crowd control in this game yet. I don't. But regardless of whether there are or are not, it doesn't feel like there are any diminishing returns to crowd control. If I get body slammed by a Snorlax and then levitated by a Slowpoke, it doesn't feel like that levitate is any shorter than a standard levitate. In most other games, they implement diminishing returns on these things. If there are diminishing returns on this and I just don't know, let me know in the comment section below. But despite that knowledge, it doesn't feel like they're there in any significant amount. Crowd control is a very important part of these games. But I feel as though we should be able to feel it. We should be able to have more tools against crowd control. We don't really, outside of, I think, full heal. But this leads me to my last point, and it's linked with crowd control. Ult whiffing. Crowd control, for certain ults, it turns them off, but it turns them off in specific windows. My example is going to be Charizard. Charizard's ult can be turned off if you stun him at the exact second that he tries to use his ultimate. Now, there is no way for the enemy player to know that you're about to use your ultimate. They can't see when your ultimate is coming up. They can't see anything in regards to your ultimate, and there's not a wind-up that they can actually see that is meaningful in any way. So it's almost random. It almost feels like you're being cucked out of using an ability without your opponent having utilized any skill to stop it. They just happened to hit the stun at the same time that you happened to use your ult. Now, what happens when you do this? Well, Charizard doesn't enter his ult, and instead of just not entering his ult and being delayed, the ult still goes on cooldown, which can screw up an entire team fight, which feels really bad if you, as a player, are needing that ult for the fight. You save that ult for that fight, and then via essentially a dice roll, you've lost the ability to utilize it. Again, this is an issue that is solved in other MOBAs, but it's not really solved here, and it needs to be, because there are certain characters that feel worse to play because their ult can be whiffed. Ults should be able to be interacted with. I wholly support that. But it should take player input and player sensibility to make it happen, not just hammering a crowd control button and hoping for the best. That doesn't feel good for the player who executes it, and it doesn't feel good for the player who it's happening to. It feels like a random dice roll. Despite all these things, I think I need to reiterate again, I do absolutely love this game. I do. And I give these criticisms not because I have any ill will towards it, but because I want to see this game improve. I love the MOBA genre. I have gotten 10 years of fun out of League. I have gotten 3 years of fun out of Paladins. And I want to get many years of fun out of this game as well. and I've enjoyed other mobile MOBAs as well. Mobile Legends and other games have been things that I have sunk time into and enjoyed greatly. I want this to be one of those games for me as well. For that to happen, there needs to be a commitment from the Pokemon Company, from Nintendo, from Tencent, to actually balance this game out and get rid of some of the more predatory elements to its ecosystem. I want to see this game do well. I want to see this game not looked at as a black sheep on the Pokemon community that's there just to suck dollars out of its players. I want it to be viewed in the same competitive light as something like the card game is, as something like the VGC is. I want this to be the best thing it can be. But I also want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below what your favorite things are about Pokemon Unite, and what things you have the most issue with. Do you take any issue with some of the things that I said? That could easily be the case. Regardless, I want to know. I want to know your opinion down there. And if you think there's somebody who could get some insight out of this video, then maybe consider sharing it with them. With all that said, though, if you want to support this channel and what I do, there are ways to do so in the description. They're easily accessible, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. I know that me rambling on about a video game is not everybody's favorite cup of tea, but I appreciate it regardless. As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.